Talk to some Arizona. We talk some Arizona State 2 coaches we bring in here. We talked about this game as the game of a million talking points, and you say it every week. You go, oh, there's always there's always going to be 5 to 10 plays that I'm thinking about. This is just the 1 week where the fans are thinking about it too. I think if you won the game by 20 points, you'd still think about these plays. But this is the 1 week where they're all thinking about it too. And there were a lot of components to that Hail Mary play, and to really underline it, UCLA had the same exact situation later that night against Utah, and they did a totally different thing. So let's look at that Hail Mary play. What are different things were you playing for? What was supposed to happen as opposed to maybe what did happen?
Well, I think the hardest part with it was we have to remember Arizona State only needed a field goal to win the game. So many times we see Hail Marys, and they come when a team needs a touchdown to win the game. They only needed a field goal. So at the time, initially we called a total Hail Mary defense, and that was the original call. But for whatever reason, the officials were taking their time. There was a lot of that going on in the game. They were taking their time. We actually had time to change the call. And we changed the call to, one, still defend the Hail Mary with a 2-deep safety look with Hayes getting back to the middle to try to get really 3 guys in the middle of the defense, but yet still defend the out route. Because with 7 seconds, you can throw a 10-yard out route. Right. They were on the 44-yard line. They get the ball on the 34-yard line. They're kicking a 51-yard field goal to win the game. So we had to defend both those things. The end result was, I don't know if they executed it exactly as you draw it up. I don't know if he threw the ball exactly where it's supposed to go. The ball kind of fluttered back into the middle of the field, where most Hail Marys, the ball gets thrown really more by the numbers into the corner of the end zone where all of the bodies are. The ball kind of comes back to the middle. It was almost like a punt that didn't get hit right, where it didn't turn over. It kind of hung up and then fell back down. And 21, to his credit, tracked the ball the whole way. If you go back and watch the play, he's nowhere near the ball when it first gets thrown, and he tracks it, and he went and took the ball. And unfortunately, we waited for it. So we have to continue to practice it. It's unfortunate because we actually played a really good football game until the final 5 minutes of that game. We give up 3 drives, and we give up yards in chunks that the rest of the game we'd actually played very good defense.
Sark, for me, and I'm probably reflecting as a player, but at some point, you have to, as a player, you have to understand the situation, right? I know you're not going to put on the players. I know you've taken responsibility for it, and the coaching and all that. I get it. But at some point, the players have to make plays. I mean, if I'm out there, I'm watching from up above, but I see them in a Hail Mary type of situation. And more importantly, when the ball's in the air, somebody needs to go get it. I mean, how much was that stress to the players? It just, all things aside, play football.
Without a doubt. And, I go back to it. I jokingly said it in the post game, but I really mean it. Since the first grade, I played 3 flies up. Yeah. I was down at Sunny Glen Park, and I played 3 flies up, and I wanted to catch the ball so that I could be the guy to go throw it. Right. I mean, that's the way.
That's the game, yeah.
And sometimes, and I've said this before, we can't work football. We get to play football, and we want to make sure our players have enough confidence in themselves, in their own ability, in the guys around them to go play the game, to believe in themselves and go play the game. And I know you had Sue on here earlier on air. He's probably doing that the best of anybody on our roster right now. He's playing the game. He's being instinctual. When he sees a run, he's going and making a play on the guys, going and making the tackle. We want all of our guys to play that way. So we just need to continue to try to coach it.
All right, as we hit the top of the hour, let's take 10 seconds to allow stations to identify themselves. As we stay back here with Sark, JJ talked about the play that sticks with him. I talked about the play that sticks with me. You've mentioned the play that sticks with you really came 7.5 minutes before the end of the game. It was a 3rd and 2, and in that situation, you gave Cody a run-pass option, and I guess he took the check to Nelson, and obviously that didn't work out. Take us through that. How often does Cody get two choices at the line, and what's he coached to do?
It's very common in our system. When you go to the shotgun, when you go to the pistol like we're in quite a bit, and you start to spread people out a little bit more like we've been doing, it is very common to give the quarterback kind of a run-pass option read. which we had been giving Cody the other night. And we saw some times when he threw the ball out to Nelson on the perimeter, he'd make the safety miss. He'd get 6 or 7 yards. In our mind, I know that doesn't look, like this sexy play that we just ran, but it's a run. Even though we throw a bubble screen, in our mind, a bubble screen is a run. So when we get 7 yards, that's a very successful running play. If I handed off the two-back power play and it got 7 yards, everybody would feel great about it. So that's how I view it. It was 3rd and 3. We had been really successful running the football that drive. I really felt like we were starting to wear on Arizona State. We had run up into that point nearly 90 plays in the game. We felt good about the tempo we were operating at. And we were really in 2-down territory. I knew we were going to go forward on 4th down in that scenario with the time on the clock to score the game. And it was about a 3rd and 3 on their 30-yard line. And so in my mind, it was going to be a run and then either a run or a pass option on 4th down. We loved the run call. There was a pass option on it. They gave us a defense to where it really became a one-on-one scenario with Nelson on the perimeter with their safety. Cody decided to throw it, and that's part of our system. I can't take that from him because that's part of our system when we made the call. And to their safety's credit, he made a heck of a tackle on Nelson, which he hadn't made all night long, and we ended up losing 5 yards on the play. It puts us in a 4th and 8 from the 35. Now we're going to go forward again, and then we get a false start. We don't snap the ball. Max, just for whatever reason, fatigue, whatever it was, doesn't snap the ball. Now we're into a 4th and 13. It went from a 3rd and 3 to a 4th and 13, and now we're punting the football. So really, to me, and I said this after the game, and I still really believe it today, that sequence of those 3 plays really changed the complexion of the entire game.
I know we've talked about how well Cody's been playing throughout the year, but he took a major shot, and I said this during the game. He had his back turned, and he took a shot in the back. And I said this during the game that after that hit, he just didn't look the same. Did you get any sense of that he just wasn't about his wits? Because those blindside shots sometimes rattle you.
I think for the next couple series, you're right, JJ. And, Cody will learn from that. We were in a scat protection, a 5-man protection, where we were trying to get 5 out, which we've been very successful at this year. That's why Buck and Justin are catching the ball so well out of the backfield. They brought a will or weak side linebacker blitz from the boundary. Technically, that's Cody's responsibility to know that blitz is coming and to get the ball out in a hot scenario. He didn't see it. He took the big hit, and I would agree. I think it did take its toll on him there for a couple series, but I did think he responded, and he made some really competitive plays. I loved the touchdown run that he had. I mean, it just kind of showed the fiery spirit that he had and really fired everybody up. So he'll learn from it. He'll learn from it. He wanted to take it
one way or another.
Yeah, when you get hit in the back of the head, you learn from it, believe me.
Well, it's Live and Learn Week certainly here at USC, and so we're going to see what they learned coming up this weekend against Arizona. We'll talk to Coach about that game coming up. You're listening to Trojans Live. Back on Trojans Live, Jordan Moore, John Jackson, and the head coach, Steve Sarkisian, and we wrap up that Arizona State game. We move on to Arizona as well here. Cody Kessler's probably going to make a lot of money someday playing this game. It probably won't be as a punter, but he was pressed into that duty a little bit on Saturday because you lose your starting long snapper, Zach Smith. How did that color your decision-making throughout the game?
Well, it did affect us. It wasn't by surprise. Zach had suffered a concussion the previous week against Oregon State. We were anticipating, everybody was, that, generally speaking, when you have 7 days to recover, it wasn't a violent concussion. It wasn't, you probably couldn't even know it happened in the game, right, that he would be recovered by kickoff time. Obviously, he couldn't pass the test, the baseline test, and we weren't going to risk, putting any player out in that situation. And so we had a plan in place, one for a traditional punting formation with Peter McBride as our long snapper, and then the spread punt with Cody doing it. Also, with our field goals, it was a little bit of an issue, too. We didn't feel great about a long field goal. Our snap time just wasn't as good. The ball getting back, snap, hold, kick. They were a good rushing team, so we went forward on a 4th down that maybe we kick a field goal earlier in the game. But all in all, you're aware of it. You think about it. It's in the back of your mind. It affected me at the end of the game. Obviously, we went to the spread punt again. And I don't blame Cody at all. I think he kind of, rushed it a little bit, and the ball goes straight out of bounds. Maybe if he can keep it in play, we milk more time off the clock. All those things play into it, but that's football, That's why the ball isn't round that we play with, It bounces really funny ways and different ways, and you just play the hand that you're dealt, and you keep grinding away at it.
You know, Sark, I noticed during the game there was a point where Adoree was matched up on Jalen Strong and shutting him down, right? I mean, he was all over him every single play, et cetera, et cetera. Arizona State's counter to that was they moved him around, moved him to the slot, try to do some different things, you know, with him. I know that Coach Wilcox has said that they play sides, left and right, but was there any thought or any, you know, contemplating in this game just putting Adoree on Strong because he was playing it so well?
We were, and I thought we did a really good job of that for the most part. What Arizona State did is they went to a kind of a trips formation. Normally, Jalen Strong was always the single receiver in that trips formation. That's what was on the film for 2 years now.
Right.
What they did against us about half the time was put him in the middle of the trips formation, where even if Adoree was the corner to that side, it would have been very difficult to get him matched up on him in that slot position. So that's why we left him on that single cut receiver. And Adoree had a heck of a game. He's continuing to improve. He's getting better and better and better. You know, I think he's a guy, as he even gets more comfortable in our scheme, potentially we can move him in and out of the slot and become the nickel or the corner based on where the receiver is that we want to shut down.
Yeah,
as we look ahead now, you know, another challenge. Boy, this conference is something every week, and now it's Rich Rodriguez who's got his own offense. And, you know, this was brought up to you this morning. I thought it was sort of an interesting question is, do you have we reached the point where you feel like you need to, I think you called them video game numbers. Do you need to put up video game numbers to win in this conference, or is it a case of, hey, Washington State put up video game numbers and they didn't win the game? I mean, where's the winning go with the yardage?
I think that is the biggest thing that we're losing sight of in college football right now. The goal is to win the game. And what do we need to do to win the game? I could go throw it 75 times Saturday, and Cody probably throw for close to 600 yards. That'd be the truth. But would that be conducive to us being the most successful team we can be to winning the game? Is that taking care of our defense? Is that doing all the right things for our team to be successful to go win the game? And I don't know. Everybody has to have their own style, their own form in which they work. All I know is the Cal Bears have given up over 50 points the last 2 weeks, and they've won both games. They gave up 56 against Colorado and 7 touchdown passes. They gave up 59 the other night against Washington State, 734 yards passing, 800 and something yards of total offense, and won the game. So everybody has their own style to do it. Ours is a belief in running the football and having balance on offense, playing sound defense. And in the end, in my opinion, over time, history tells us that's how you win for a long period of time, and we'll continue to try to do that.
You know, Arizona's defense, it's listed as a 3-3-5.
Right.
With as much as we run the football, I doubt, well, you tell me, will it be a 3-3-5 from past experiences against this defense, or will they change up things?
Well, what they do, JJ, is they show you the 3-3-5 pretty much every snap at the start. But they are slanting, they're blitzing into 4-man fronts or 5-man fronts. You're going to see double-edge saw-dog pressures with both outside linebackers coming. You're going to see internal pressures where they're essentially taking a linebacker and making him become a defensive lineman. And so, you know, it says 3-3-5, but they really get to the more 4-down type fronts and fronts to stop the run. And so, you know, we've got our work cut out for us that way because with the 3-3 pre-alignment, they have a lot of defense that they can play up front out of the multitude of looks they can give you with all the linebackers on the field.
I've seen the T-shirts. It's apparently a new era at Arizona, as in a new Solomon, their redshirt freshman quarterback. You know, what kind of problems does he present as you deal with yet another mobile quarterback?
Well, it's, again, the dual threat guy, right? The guy that can run it when it's designed to run. It's a guy that can zone read it and pull it and hurt you that way. And it's a guy that you can call passes and then he can pull it down and run it again. And he's plenty capable enough of throwing the ball on time and doing all those things. So it's being disciplined in our rush lanes. It's making them play from within the pocket. Again, this week, it's about stopping the run first. They look like a spread team. They are a spread team, but they really are have a little bit of the Stanford mentality that they're going to run the ball regardless of the front. And they're going to run inside zone, and they're going to hand it off over and over and over and over and over again. And you have to be disciplined in your alignments. You have to be disciplined with your technique. You have to be able to get off blocks, defeat one-on-one blocks. And when you do that, then the ball gets thrown outside one-on-one. And they've got a plethora of receivers they love to throw the ball to, and you're going to have to win one-on-one matchups on the fades for sure.
You know, does it change? I mean, Arizona will be a different atmosphere. Stanford was a relatively easy atmosphere to play in, and Boscov a little bit more difficult. But this is, you know, probably the toughest atmosphere to this point that the Trojans are going to see. Any difference in preparation or communication or even signals to make sure everybody's on the same page?
Well, I think from a cadence standpoint, we have to be prepared for that. We haven't had to use a silent count yet this year. We will be prepared to use that Saturday night. It'll be a great atmosphere. They're the number 10 ranked team in America. They're the only undefeated team in our conference right now. And it's on national television at 7:30 at night. They're going to be fired up, the Zona Zoo, all that stuff. So we are going to have to adjust a few things to make sure we're prepared for the environment.
What's the emotional state of this team? Obviously, that was a gut punch and loss right there. And is it good to have a game instead of sitting on it like you had to do last time?
Without a doubt. I'll take a game 7 days later over a bye any day, or any week. But I like this team. I feel bad for the guys at the end of the game went the way it did. Because I really felt like we had started to come on. The Oregon State game, the way we played against a very good Arizona State team, and I know it's hard not just to look at the last few plays of the game, but for 3.5 quarters, we played really good football in all 3 phases. We saw the punt return by Nelson for a touchdown, which I thought he was due. I think Adori's due on kickoff returns. We played a really balanced offensive game plan. We controlled the clock. We limited their plays to 60-something plays. There's so many good things. I don't want to lose sight of that. And I don't want our team to either. Now, we need to improve. We need to get better. We need to play better Saturday night to beat Arizona, and it'll be a great challenge. And, I would imagine that we're going to go in with a real chip on our shoulder playing the number 10 ranked team in America. And we're going to come out of this game. We're going to win this ball game, and we'll be back in first place in the South. And I don't expect anything less of our guys.
How have the veteran guys responded? Because I think that sometimes when you're in these situations, the older guys that have been around sort of understand how to handle this and how to keep things in perspective. Because, I've been still staring at this stat sheet, and every single stat goes in the Trojans' direction, and most importantly, no turnovers. How much of the senior guys sort of taking a hold of that amongst the team, amongst themselves? Because a lot of times it's the players that need to sort of band together.
Well, we have to give them living examples. We have to remember this team a year ago was 3-2 as well.
That's right.
And went on to win 10 games. Right. I gave them a living example of 2002 with Carson Palmer. We just got done getting beat in Pullman by Washington State. We were 3-2 that year. We ended up, winning a conference championship, winning the Orange Bowl, and Carson wins the Heisman Trophy. So there's been plenty of teams that have had a couple losses early in the year, but the leadership and the team has found a way to rally and keep doing things the right way, and ultimately success comes.
And there was an 0-1 game when Carroll started 2-5, I believe it was, and Chris Richard in Tucson as a pick 6. They ended up winning out the season, and so on and so forth. The rest is history, as they say. That's what Coach is looking for, a little turning point win this weekend in Tucson, 7:30 ESPN2. It will be a fun one. Trojans Live is brought to you by Hyundai, proud supporter of college football and loyal fans everywhere. Coming up after Trojans Live, it's Clippers basketball. So, hey, let's talk some USC basketball. The head coach, Andy Enfield, is coming up to close Trojans Live.